sometimes it takes a number of years for things to percolate down. You'll have some idea, and it'll be sparked off by the thing that you're working on, and that moves into something else. It's not as stop-start as one would imagine. It's more that there's a transformation from one subject to another. But then there are times when I just do stop working, and you always think, well, this is it. You know, it's no more work. I'm not going to be doing them. And it's happened to me, you know, hundreds of times, and I always think when it does happen that this is the final one. You know, that's not. But I always find that there's things that they're very tenuous kind of straws to grasp at, and they do evolve into works. I find being away from the studio and not working, I find it very difficult picking threads up, and that provides usually a big pause, and I find it very difficult often just to get started again. It's a bit like you know, when you have a dream, if you don't go and write those things down, you lose all those tentative threads. And I find that when I don't come into the studio, I've lost some of those threads, and because they're not often, you don't actually know they're there, and it's just something that sparks again. And in the studio, you can see bits, papers and bits of canvas, and it's just there. Those aren't finished works. They're just there to remind me of a certain thing, a certain line, a certain colour. You've got the studio door there pinned with photographs, and it's quite often I just leave them there, and they're just like a kind of a memory an aid for the memory, and I never know what to do with them, but sometimes they just kind of fall into another group of paintings. The way of working it's similar throughout a number of paintings that I've made, and I've found the thing that suits me is I work on the floor, and I think it's probably to do with the fact I do need physical contact with the work, and to actually be inside, sometimes almost literally, working actually on the canvas. So I would work hands and knees. Sometimes you see those imprints in the paintings, and so I'd use that as a drawing. And what it enabled me working on the floor was I was able to use pressure and onto the canvas without it being on a stretcher, which would cause all sorts of problems, and also have the addition of gravity. So when you were working with colours that would tend to pool or whatever without running. But I would also use a wall as well, so there'd be a constant movement from the vertical to the horizontal and vertical to the horizontal, and you can see that with the piece of wood and the string of taking them from the floor to the wall. And of course when you're working on the floor, it's very difficult to see things without the foreshortening, so you do need to go up onto a wall to really get an idea of what's going on. And the materials I tend to work with have been charcoal, which is a material I like a lot. It's a very basic, probably one of the first materials for making marks that have been around. And the reason why I like the qualities it has, it's a very sort of naked material in a sense. And each piece is very different, and you can't predict how it's going to behave. Sometimes it'll just shatter, and other times it's very scratchy. Or this is a kind of quality, the slightly being out of control quality that I like with the charcoal. And also making marks on the floor with charcoal, all the debris, the shards that get shattered from all these particles of carbon, they lay on the surface, and so they're just falling away. So you can see almost the kind of this debris of the making of the thing through this line, so you can get this line. And if I want to keep that, then I would, with the addition of a copolymer emulsion, like an acrylic emulsion, I would add that to the surface, so all those particles then were locked into the surface. Charcoal, you know, it's a pigment like the other pigments. It's vine black is charcoal. The pigment we call vine black is just ground charcoal. And I've tended to use, rather than tubes of paint, use the particular pigments and add the mediums myself, and that I do like the qualities and the rawness that these have. And you know, the different colours have different weights, you know, whether they're heavy metal or a plant-based, and it's very interesting that the weight affects the behaviour of those paints. Some are very where the particles are very locked together, and other times where they're very free flowing. And so it's the behaviour of the colours too that you actually find, where with the working with the raw colour, the kind of the paint that you would buy just in the tube, it kind of loses some of that. You know, it becomes this kind of it becomes almost like homogenized in a sense. You lose some of the weights and the qualities that you're dealing with.